Hello and welcome back to awtoolbox.com. My name is Glenn Keller, and in this demonstration we are just going to apply an update to our local help documentation for the 2506 version of Teamcenter. So on the Siemens website you have to get a couple of things in order for this to work, and we have several demos walking through how to properly install the Siemens help server. It comes with an executable or an SH, and you can just install it. It's fairly simple and point and click. The biggest thing is just remembering what port you're using, but I've got my help documentation server right here. It's installed on the operating system, and you can see I've still got 2412 on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to deploy 2506 to it. I've gotten that media from the download site on the Siemens Support Center. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how to change it to maybe remove older versions of documentation. So to begin with, on here, I have already gotten the documentation in my media location. For 2506, this is the actual media, but the documentation itself I have in my downloads. So you can see the docs Teamcenter 2506 right here. If you already have your documentation server installed, it's as simple as running this and then following the prompts. Otherwise, you need to choose the documentation server first and then install this on top of it. In this case, we already have the doc server installed, so I'm just going to go ahead and run as administrator. And this is going to go in. It will detect that there is a license server already installed, and then it will allow me kind of to add to that license server. So we're just waiting for it to spin. It's kind of loading up that interface now. You can see how that looks. I'm going to click OK. It'll say, hey, Teamcenter 2506 in English. I'm going to choose next. Now, if you need another localization in the download section, choose the other localization pack. Then it'll go and prepare the download and install the components. So this is a fairly easy little install to do. It doesn't take much time at all to run it. And then you'll see my interface at the moment in the background only has 2412 on it right here. And in a moment, you'll see when I refresh, I'll have some additional data. Now, this, again, only takes a couple of minutes to run, but it's almost essential in order to have all the local help available to you in the software itself. I pretty much don't start without having it available in the instance so that it's always easy to access without having to actually log into the Siemens Support Center, though all of this documentation is also available on the Siemens Support Center site. So this has finished now. It's at about 100%. It's just kind of finishing up, wrapping it. And what that was is kind of a prelude to the actual installation itself. Now it's going through and it's doing what's called resetting the index, which is the searching capability inside of the help that's deployed. It's just making sure all the new topics and everything are searchable. It's importing that index now, and then we'll be able to finish up. So once this is done, we should see it in the display, and that's pretty much it. Now, if you are trying to modify the installation, you need to go to the Add Remove Features, at least on the Windows side. You can remove it completely if you're in Linux. And then in the Add Remove Features section, if you were to come down, you're looking for the documentation server. It's the Siemens doc server. So if you wanted to modify this or anything like that, you could from here. This is how I go about uninstalling it whenever I need to. But that's in the case that you need to edit it. So in a minute, you'll see it pop up and we'll be able to navigate that help documentation. All right, it's jumped up to 100% now, and we're just waiting on it to finish up. It is taking just a bit longer on this machine than what I'm used to, but it is a bigger set of documentation. What you will see is that Siemens has actually changed their docs a bunch in this version as well. They have these great quick start guides that they are now producing that take you kind of step by step through the installation and what sequence of events need to occur. So I highly recommend that. This has finished. I'm going to click next, and you can see it's got this launch here. I do have a link on my desktop and I have it open in the background, but if you launch it, it will launch up and you'll see 2506 has been added to the set. So if I click 2506, it'll load up the documentation on the page, and we'll just be able to validate that everything's here. So you can see it all. Now, if I come back out, I'm going to close this, and now if I launch it, you'll see that I have it. Now, the goal here is to get rid of the older one as well. So if you come into the docs, you'll notice there's no editor or anything like that. I did install the docs server. If I come into Siemens, help servers here, and you can see all of these different components that you can do. In the collections documentation section, this is where the different documentation lives. So this is the 2412, and I could delete this and kind of cap it out. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into add remove features. Then I'm going to go to the documentation server, uninstall, and notice it'll try and uninstall it. So if I say uninstall, it'll go through and try and wipe it from the system. And what you're going to get here is a couple of things pop up. It'll pop up the installer itself, and then now you can come into the installer, expand the documentation, and select the Teamcenter 12 documentation. Then choose next, and then remove. So there was a little checkbox that said keep the documentation files if you want to, so it doesn't have to copy them back in case you wanted to add it in. That's a nice little save if you're just kind of uninstalling, reinstalling. But this should remove the 2412 stuff from the build. So we'll let this run for a second, and we'll come back and check on it here in a moment. Should only last a couple of minutes, about as long as the initial install did. And then at that point, we should be ready for just 2506, and 2412 should be gone out of this interface. So let's give it a minute to complete, and then we'll come back and test it out. Once this finishes up, you'll basically have removal complete here, and then you can choose done. So now I can come in, I can say install products, I can manage software, verify installations. I can go to tools and see different tools that I have available, as well as the help, for the help. So at this point, I'm just going to click exit. I'm going to go ahead and refresh what I'm seeing in my browser, and you'll see 2506 is the only one here. So at this point, we are ready to go get into our what's new topics for 2506. Just take a brief look at the next video in the sequence, as we're going to do a little bit of cleanup work on some of the residual links and just some final validation in that video as well. And then we'll get going with that what's new topic.